Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football heading into the new year. That dead period set to get lifted. It's very clear that Lincoln Riley and USC are not done going out and making additions in the transfer portal. Now, we're going to talk about a few, I think, intriguing visitors that will be on campus for USC over the next couple of days, but I want to first start with what seems to be the most popular conversation amongst USC fans, and that is, what do we do at the quarterback spot? Did we see enough from Jaden, and do we have enough confidence within Hassan Longstreet to go into 2025 with only two scholarship quarterbacks? Or do you want to see USC add one more quarterback and really try to maximize this quarterback room heading into 2025? And I think the beauty of this conversation is there's two parties of thought. There's one party that says, hey, we didn't see enough from Jaden. We want to add another quarterback going into 2025. And there's plenty of USC fans on the other side saying, hey, we are confident with Jaden and Hassan Longstreet going into 2025. I'd rather spend our time and resources in the transfer portal building as complete of a roster around the quarterback position that we can. And I think the beauty in this conversation is both. I think there's merit. I think there's very good points to both sides of thought. Now, my personal opinion is I look at USC, I look at Lincoln Riley, I look at if this team does something special in 2025 and really gets this thing going in the right direction, it's because you have some of the best quarterback play, not only in the Big Ten Conference, but in the country. How do you try to work towards getting there? I think it's adding another quarterback into the room, and it's not me getting up here and saying I don't believe in Hassan Longstreet or Jaden to be the guy in 2025. But just a general thought that I have is you don't want to necessarily rely on a true freshman to be the guy year one. I think Hassan Longstreet is certainly capable of it, but you want to make sure you're in a spot where you don't have to throw a kid out there if he's not ready. And then you look at Jaden and say, look, there are a lot of reasons to believe in Jaden going into 2025. And I think it starts with what does it look like when this offense kind of gets built around Jaden and not Miller Moss, and he gets a full off season of, kind of being the guy for this USC offense. I think there's a lot of reason to believe that some of the mistakes and some of the head scratching throws that you see from Jaden might get cleaned up heading into 2025. Now, my personal opinion is there's kind of a strong sample size of it being a little bit of a roller coaster for Jaden, going back to his time at UNLV. And we certainly saw that roller coaster continue in the back half of the 2024 season. I'm not saying it can't get better because it certainly can. But if you want to maximize the quarterback position, and again, I think that's the avenue for USC having a really good year in 2025, where you look at the Big Ten, the one really big leg up that USC should have is at the quarterback play. I'm a career a lifelong Michigan fan. I've been watching a lot of Big Ten football. If there's one knock on this conference is outside of Ohio State, the quarterback play in the Big Ten is never all that good. And so if you're USC, your avenue to having a lot of success in this conference is having better quarterback play than everybody else. And if you have better quarterback play than everybody else in the conference, you put yourself in a really good spot to win a lot of football games. I give USC and Lincoln Riley a lot of credit for being patient in the transfer portal, especially when it comes to the quarterback spot where, look, there just haven't been that many good quarterbacks that have hit the transfer portal. Outside of John Mateer, I look at the transfer portal crop and say, I don't know if there's a player that's obviously head and shoulders better than anything USC has on the roster. That patience might pay off down the stretch because you look at all the other teams that wanted a quarterback, they for the most part, have landed a quarterback. USC is sitting there and saying, we haven't landed a quarterback, but if a few big names hit the portal, we can suddenly become the biggest player for that quarterback. And late Sunday night, Markrowski from South Dakota State hits the transfer portal immediately, generating a lot of Power 4 buzz. I think this addition could make a lot of sense for this USC program. I want to get into Markrowski. I want to talk about a few other transfer portal visitors that will be on campus. Now, before we get into it, as always, one, to the USC fans, although we might disagree on this topic, the amount of support y'all have shown the boys over the last 12 months has been absolutely amazing. I can't thank you guys enough for rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, let it fly in the comment section. Hey, there's going to be a differing of opinions. I think that's the beauty of this conversation. If you think I'm an idiot, you can go ahead and call me an idiot in the comment section. If you're with me on Markrowski, I would love to hear from y'all as well. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Without further ado, let's get into Markrowski. Now, I think this makes a ton of sense for USC. I think first and foremost, this dude is an absolute winner that has a ton of experience and ton of production. And although it's at the FCS ranks, the physical traits that Markrowski has, I mean, there's a reason that he might just not even go to another team and just go to the NFL draft. There's a lot of NFL teams that like this kid and what he can bring to the NFL, and for good reason. You start with the production. I mean, over 10,000 passing yards the last couple of years at South Dakota State. What I love the most, and probably what makes me feel a lot more comfortable about adding him to the quarterback room, is 93 touchdowns to 20 interceptions. That touchdown to interception ratio, it's really good. And when you look at Markrowski, he doesn't take sacks. He doesn't turn the football over. That's something that Jaden has struggled with, right? He's taken some ugly sacks. He has put the ball in harm's way a lot over the last couple of weeks. You get a little bit more consistency with Markrowski, but I also think he gives you that, difference-making physical traits that you like. It starts with him being a really good athlete. He's also run for 1,700 rushing yards, over 27 touchdowns. To me, I look at USC heading into the 2025 year and say it might look a little different than the Caleb Williams offense. When you had Caleb Williams, it was really hard to lean into the run game because you want Caleb Williams having the football in his hand every single snap. Going into 2025, I look at the strength of this USC. This USC team ran the football phenomenally all of 2024. We wish they leaned into it earlier and more often. Markrowski, with his ability to run the football at 6'3", 230, it's there. It's better than Jaden. It's certainly better than Miller Moss. I think Hassan Longstreet brings some of those elements too. But Markrowski, I mean, he's 230 pounds. He's bigger than a lot of linebackers that are trying to tackle him. He never slides, which I absolutely love. I mean, you want to take care of the body, but you also want a football player that's going to go make plays for your team. This is a guy that I think adds, that a little bit more juice to this USC offense. He certainly has that running presence, but he doesn't take sacks. He takes care of the football. To me, that would make a lot of sense for USC. And if you add Markrowski into the room, whether he wins the job or not, you feel pretty good that if Jaden or even Hassan Longstreet beat him out, you're getting dang good quarterback play going into 2025. I think you want to add a third quarterback anyways. 2 scholarship quarterbacks, that's not a deep room. You probably want at least 3. And I think Markrowski adds a guy that certainly can win you a lot of football games and be that stopgap guy until Hassan Longstreet is ready to play, but also allows you to be deeper at the quarterback spot. I think makes a lot of sense. While you're on Markrowski, I've watched a lot of him over the last couple of days since he hit the portal. He's got a teammate in Griffin Wild. And for the USC fans who have watched some of Markrowski, I'm sure you recognized him too. He also hit the transfer portal. He had 71 catches for over 1,100 yards. That quarterback wide receiver duo for South Dakota State in 2024 was elite. I would go and take a look at him as well. And so that's my thoughts on Markrowski. I think he'd add a lot of juice to this USC room. I think he's a really good football player. And I think where USC's at right now, you want to maximize the quarterback room and you want to get the best possible quarterback play you can. And I think adding a guy like Markrowski makes that possible for USC. Now, looking at a few other transfer portal additions USC is going after, I think the most exciting one, another big body on the inside of the defensive line, Jeffrey Mabach. Really intriguing cat. He was from France, goes JUCO, was the number 1 JUCO prospect coming out in his class in 2022. Now, yes, is he going into year 4? Yup. I still think this kid has a big-time ceiling because it's important to remember he's from France. He didn't grow up playing a ton of football and was certainly not getting great coaching out there in France. I still think he's a guy that's gotten better and better. Started his career at Auburn, goes to Purdue, plays as a rotational player in 2023. In 2024, he played 600 total snaps for Purdue. 600 total snaps tells me they loved him. They didn't want to take him off the football field. Do I think he comes in and starts for USC with guys like Keyshawn Silver and Jamal Jarrett getting added? I'm not sure. But all of a sudden, USC is going from having some of the worst depth on the inside of the defensive line that we saw in the Big Ten to arguably having some of the better depth. And as a Big Ten fan that's been watching this conference a lot, having depth on your defensive line is huge. When you look at a guy like Gavin Mayer played very well for USC in 2024, but he was probably not a guy you wanted playing 500 plus snaps, especially with how banged up he was. I give Gavin Mayer a ton of credit. He seemed like it was a knee, it was an elbow, it was a thumb, it was a shoulder. I think there were a laundry list of injuries that Gavin Mayer was playing with, and you kind of look at it and say, what if Gavin Mayer had to miss a couple of games? Then the depth was a massive question mark for USC. All of a sudden going into 2025, I look at the depth on the inside and say we're bigger and stronger than we were in 2024, but we're a hell of a lot deeper too. And Jeffrey Mabach, he's going to help that in a big way. Last name I'll kind of shout out, Sam Phillips from Chattanooga. 5'9", 185. The thing that caught my eye here, an average depth of target of 14 yards down the field. He averaged almost 16 yards per catch. A really productive at Chattanooga, guy that will give you some of that verticality that you want in your offense. I don't think wide receiver is a massive question mark for USC after what I just saw from Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. I think you have arguably one of the best wide receiver duos you see in the country with guys like Xavier Jordan going into year 2. I think Jay Fair is a solid depth piece in that room. You're bringing in a couple freshman wide receivers I like. I don't think it's a massive problem, but if you think that Sam Phillips can bring another element to your wide receiver, I certainly wouldn't hate it. What I love most about USC in the portal is it's not necessarily the biggest portal class, but the process has been really good. We're not wasting a ton of time and energy on positions that don't need to be addressed. Where you go back to last year at times, I felt like USC was going after positions where it's like, I feel good about those positions. You added 2 or 3 wide receivers in the transfer portal last year. I think 3, right? Kyle Ford, Jay Fair, and Richardson. I don't know if you needed to do that last year. Like this year, it seems much more targeted at, hey, where are the positions that are question marks on our roster? Let's go and make sure we're just focusing purely on those positions in the portal. I think USC's done a really good job of that, and they've set themselves up to be, pretty aggressive in the back half of this transfer portal window. We'll see how it works out. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.